Good day. I am Dr. Arvind Poswal from Delhi, India. Today I will be talking about some of the myths in hair transplant. There are a lot of myths, these are only some of them. Now, myth number 1, transplanted hair needs special aftercare. Most of the patients ask if they will need some special medicines to eat or apply so that the transplanted hair keep on growing. So first of all, please remember, there is no special medication or aftercare after a hair transplant for the transplanted hair to keep growing. Yes, it is an aim on part of the patient as well as on part of the doctor to try to slow down the fall of other hair, native hair, with progress of time. For that, sometimes two main medicines are mentioned. One is finasteride and other is minoxidil. Often I do not recommend either of them. The reason is very simple. These medicines were not primarily made for hair loss. They were made for other things. And once they found that a small percentage of those patients were able to see some hair regrowth, so they were then transferred to treating patients with hair loss. The side effects of these treatments, of these medicines, far outweigh the benefits. Anyway, the benefits do not occur in each and every one. It is a percentage of people who notice the beneficial effects. So, personally, I do not force any patient or ask them to set up on a particular regular system of medication for the rest of their life. I do not believe in that. And I do not advise that. So, I say that myth is not, that myth is not true. The trans keep growing throughout life, whether you apply anything or you eat anything or not. Just a healthy, balanced diet and a clean scalp is the only requirement for those transplanted hair to keep growing for the rest of life. Now, the second myth, myth number 2. Now, this myth is even more interesting. It started way back. It says transplanted body hair take on scalp hair characteristics. That is not true. Once you transplant any hair, let's say we transplant the beard hair to the scalp, on the scalp, it will retain all its hair characteristics as it had before while it was on beard. That is, it will be thick caliber, maybe wavy fashion as it does in most people with a beard. A chest hair will grow like a chest hair. It will not become a scalp hair. Remember, this logic is not new. It is very old. If the transplanted hair were to take on characteristics of the donor area, then imagine just transplant scalp hair onto the eyebrow. And will the scalp hair take on eyebrow characteristics? Will it be as fine, as thin as the eyebrow hair? Will it grow only as long as the eyebrow hair? No. Similarly, the same does not happen on the scalp. There is no magic. It will become very long or absolutely like scalp hair. No. It will remain as it was before. Right? Of course, those people who have very lush and long chest hair sometimes notice that the hair, transplanted hair on the scalp, they also grow longer. That is because their original hair is long. There are many people who hardly have 25 to 30 chest hair. I'm not talking of them. For them, that is not an option. And for them to think that somehow transplanted scalp hair are going to take on transplanted body hair are going to take on scalp hair characteristics is a deception. It is not going to happen. That is also the reason when we transplant beard hair, we do not transplant them into the fine hair required for temple points, nor in the hairline. The beard hair is typically used in the frontal vertex occipital area, and it gives a lot of volume when it is mixed with scalp hair and other body hair. The chest hair, meanwhile, I advise more as a filler, maybe to give a more density, but because in most people, the chest hair is not really very long. And also remember, about the chest hair, almost 50 to 60% of the chest hair are in resting phase at any one particular time. That is why once we pull the chest hair, we notice many of the hair coming in our hands. Those are the hair which are in telogen or the resting phase. That is also the reason why we ask, at least I ask, all my patients going for a body hair to scalp transplant to shave the body donor area 3 to 4 days before the transplant. That way, we come to know, we can identify the actively growing hair 3 to 4 days after shaving, and we can take out only those. We do not want to take out the fine caliber or the resting phase hair, the telogen hair. So shaving the area, the donor area, not on the head, but on the body, helps us identify the actively growing hair. Okay. Now we come to myth number 3, and this is something which is more recent in origin. And this is something I really do want to make people and doctors both aware of this, especially young doctors entering into this field. Now, directly transplanting hair after taking them out from the scalp or the beard into the donor area, often referred to as directly transplanting hair or direct hair transplant. The concept may have had good intentions. However, in the past couple of years, I have seen a lot of less experienced, maybe untrained people entering into this field. And then I see pictures of hair transplant, the recipient area pictures. I see oftentimes that lots of grafts have been placed in the bald area, but they have been placed without trimming the excess skin, the dermis, excess epidermis of them. And they are put as it is into a two-dimensional slit. Remember, it's a two-dimensional slit. It's not a hole. So if you are going to put a voluminous thing like an undissected graft into this hole, then there is going to be a bit of cobblestoning. But more important than that, I see that often a large part of the graft is actually outside the recipient slit in this so-called direct hair transplant method. Now, when the graft is partly outside the recipient slit, remember that the growing stem cells in the bulge area of the hair follicle is outside the body. That means it is not going to survive. If it does not survive, then that transplanted hair does not grow. It is not going to grow. But after seeing so many pictures with those transplanted hair lying outside the body, half outside the recipient slit, it creates a sort of legitimacy by repetition. That is, the patients keep on seeing those same pictures, they start thinking that maybe this is the way the recipient area is supposed to look like after the transplant. Then I must say, no, it is not so. It is not true. A correctly transplanted hair is, once it is taken out from the scalp or the beard or the chest or anywhere, it must be examined under microscope, magnified vision, and we have to see which are the single hairs, which are the two hairs, which are in an anagen, and then remove the excess epidermis and the dermis from them, taking care not to damage the remainder graft. That is a very crucial step, which is being missed in this so-called directly transplanting hair into the scalp. Remember, you have, as a patient, and even as young doctors entering into this, you have to become aware where a thing or a pearl of wisdom lies as compared to a marketing hype. At best, I would consider these as best that they should be like just like long hair transplant, which was there a couple of years ago. It's just a marketing hype. Like long hair transplant, if you transplant a long hair into the recipient area, it is not going to grow from that length. Most of the time it will shed, and once it sheds, it will take time to start growing again. Similarly, about the direct hair transplant or directly transplanting hair into the recipient area, it is going to give a less than expected result. I've also come across many patients who came for repair and they were disturbed and asked that they went to many places. I do not know, I am not naming, I do not know where they went. But they were told that only 50 to 60% of the transplanted hair will grow. That is not true. If one is going to transplant a hair in the correct method, in the correct place, then it will grow. And the correct way of transplanting hair into the recipient site is one, you take out the graft, let's say the scalp hair graft, you take it out, keep it in anyone which you like, maybe normal saline, and trim them under magnification. You trim them to the barest possible thing, and then you slide them into the and fitting snugly and entirely into that slit instead of hanging out of the slit. Now, there is a question which someone has asked, do hair transplants leave scar? Now, especially in terms of FUE. Now, let me take a question. Someone has asked, is hair transplant best option for hair loss? Well, I'll not say best because this is not life and death surgery, but it is definitely the most effective, right? Another one is, when will hair transplant become cost effective? Let me ask you, dear friend, it actually is cost effective right now. It was cost effective even earlier. When you compare it to spending lifetime on medicines or wigs or topies and all those things, this is sort of a one-time investment. And then it changes the life of a person. So when going for this, one has to keep in mind this also, that yes, it is a life-changing thing. So for life-changing things, one has to balance. Upfront, the cost may be more than maybe popping a few tablets or applying a bit of lotion. But you have to remember, balance it off with the effectiveness. Now, regarding the question which I was going to ask, was asked earlier, do hair transplants leave scar? Now I'll take, first I will separate it about the strip scar. Now if you take, because strip procedure or FUT procedure is still performed nowadays. It's not totally obsolete, it's not totally gone. Now that will leave a strip scar, just like any regular suture scar anywhere on the body. There are many techniques which are used. Like I personally prefer that if you take out a strip and close it with a suture, then fill the wound, the suture wound, with body hair, maybe transplanting from the chest, maybe from the beard. That way the healing of the scar is much better. There is less visibility of the scar, hair are growing through the scar. But if anyone asks me, will it leave no scar? Then I say, I cannot say that If someone says that, then that is a lie. Because if you shave it to the bone, there is a chance that the scar will be visible. Maybe 1 in a million. Because of the body's own healing characteristics, maybe a one person saw a scar that was not visible at all on being shaved to the bone, but otherwise you will notice. Secondly, transplanting hair. I'll take on questions slowly, right? Let me finish with this answer. Once we are doing FUE, now the areas where you will notice scars, I'll talk about them first. Like the chest hair. Now we use 0.8 millimeter punch to 0.85 millimeter. Now this is a very tiny punch. It goes out, take out the grafts and leaves a very tiny hole. However, chest area is notorious for hypertrophic scarring. So no matter how well we do it, if we shave this to the bone, there may be tiny, small hypertrophic dots which will be visible. So if you are like a person who wants a perfectly smooth chest and want to go to the beach, take off your clothes and lie down and have a tan, then let me advise you, go for a small session of chest hair to scalp, see the scarring and healing, and then go for more. But when we go for the face, now in beard, the thing is different. We have taken out grafts from the eyebrows. We have taken out wrongly transplanted grafts from the forehead. We have taken out grafts from the beard, reshaping the beard as desired, from the chin, from the face, from the mustache, without leaving any visible scars. That is possible. But remember, the donor scar, the donor hole has to be really tiny. And when taking from the beard, a common mistake which I find is that some clinics take out grafts only from this area. Now that is wrong. Why? Because if the patient later on wants to grow a beard, he would have a thin patch in the center. The correct way would be to take grafts from the sides first before we reach towards the center. Now, let me see which the next question was. Do transplanted hair have permanent life? This I already answered earlier. Here, donor hair takes on the characteristics. Remember, the chest hair remains on the body for lifelong. You don't see people losing chest hair, getting bald from the chest. Okay. So that is, I hope that answers. Let me say, if you have any questions, and this I say both for the patients and for doctors entering into this field, please do not hesitate to ask them. Email them to me. My email is contact@fusehair.com. Right? Now, coming back to the thing. Now, why do I say that the veterans, the older doctors, must come and act as a pathfinder for the younger generation so that they can stop them from committing those mistakes, like this particular mistake of directly transplanting hair and creating a hype. And actually, in this field, we are getting a lot of unsuccessful results coming for repair because of that. So my advice is for the doctors who are transplanting, please do remember, for decades the strip procedure was performed. And since 1997, we have been performing FUSE or FUE. And grafts can survive outside the body for a couple of hours. It has been proved. If that way, the grafts can be dissected correctly and transplanted into the recipient area to really get a nice result. A perfect hair transplant is one where no one, not even me, can recognize and say, hey, that is a hair transplant. It is one where you go to your barber or your salon and the person cutting your hair should not be able to make out that a hair transplant has been performed. For the patients, I'll advise them not to go bargain shopping. See, unlike, I repeat, it is not a life and death surgery, but there are two limitations. If you go and get an outdated result, I cannot use anybody else's hair, somebody else's hair to transplant on you. Your donor hair is a finite quantity. Please do not waste it. And as a patient, go anywhere, go to any doctor, go to their website, see pictures of the recipient area. If you see grafts hanging outside the recipient area, take that picture, copy it, send it to veteran doctors around the world. Ask them, is this correct? They will answer you. Okay? Next, whenever you are going to your doctor, ask him, please, I do not want the grafts hanging half or way out of the recipient slit. I want them snugly and properly fit into those slits. And I would like to see or take pictures with my own camera once the procedure is over, once all the grafts are in place, so that you can see that nothing is hanging out. Right? Now, if you have any other questions, you may ask me or you may email me. I'll be back with you with more topics. Please let me know anything you want my answers to. Thank you.